וד' והנה עתה יש להבין מה שהתאים זה המיימר לעניין אלה פסלס הראשונים כולו. Now we can preface, and we can understand what it prefaces in the Mamer to understand the idea of that Eleh nullifies the first ones. Tehine kol hanal b'mashal binyan ha'oneg shaya b'tchila b'halim b'dibur u'maiseh. Now, all of this in the allegory concerning the pleasure that was there, hidden in the speech and the act, before you completed it, and the revelation was the 10 statements that were drawn from Chabad and the attributes and so forth. All of this revelation is only the external, and not in the internal. Like our sages said, that Bereshis is also one of the statements of creation, that even the supernal wisdom, which is called the beginning, the highest level, it's only a statement and an action alone, in comparison to the infinite may be blessed, especially because it's only a glimmer of this wisdom alone that's drawn to being clothed in the emotions and the speech and so forth. Because the concept of speech and action are only external strengths of the soul alone. And so you can understand in what's allegorized in the 10 statements that it's only an external concept, and that's why the 10 statements are called mundane words in the Holy Zohar, that it's in love that it's not the way of the king to discuss mundane matters. And look at the Mamer, to remember Shabbos, to make it holy, concerning the idea of letters, which is a language of revelation, Miloshin Targum, from the Targum, the Asachulu, that it should come, Vasaboker, for example. So Targum, so the concept of Vasaor, it's these letters then are the Chitzonius. That is also to create angels and worlds from nothing to something, like it says, but that with the word of Hashem and so forth, and as is known, that all the worlds and the angels are drawn from the external concept, that is the combinations of letters, and also the concept of the emotions and the wisdom and understanding that shine into the supernal speech, like it says that in the beginning Elohim created, which is the word Bereishis means b'chachma, with wisdom and so forth. So the chachma is also part of these statements of the Gilui Chitzonius to create things. They're also, as is known, this is also a concept of the external, but the internal concept of pleasure and wisdom and understanding and emotions. It only happens in the night of Shabbos. Not at all during the 6 days of action, because in the night of Shabbos it says that Elohim completed rested and so forth. V'lo diber v'asa klum, and he didn't speak or act at all. Azman gilui pnimis hatainug, that's when you have this revelation of the inner pleasure, lahayer b'chachma bino midos chulu, to shine into the wisdom and the understanding and the emotions and so forth. V'inyin gilui zeh ein zeh ela b'bechina zivug, the chachma bina v'zun datzilos, is only from the concept of the intimacy of the wisdom and the understanding and the zan nukva vatzilos, laholid neshamos tafka, to give birth to souls. Shehayichud hazeh mamshich mebechinas hapnimi satainu, that this intimacy, this unity, draws from the inner pleasure, ki al derech mashal atipa shenimshechas min hamoach, just like the drop that comes from the brain, shenimshech ba bechinas pnimi satainu, that draws down the inner pleasure, mlubish ba matzmius hachachma, and is enclosed in it from the essence of wisdom, v'lo ha'ara levad, and not just a glimmer, like the glimmer of intellect in speech, because the drop actually creates an entire person in the likeness to the one, to the Father that births him. Parshas Balak, Mamer daf kuf tzadik amud beis, like it's brought in the explanations of the Zohar Balak. Al pasuk Baruch Hashem Malachav, on the verse that Hashem's angels should bless him. Mistama explaining the difference between the Yichud Pnimi of Chachma Bina that creates Malachim, and the Yichud of Zun, the Yichud Gufni that creates Neshamos. Kach in Bidas Neshamos yesh ma'ayin hunim shechal yidei Yichud Zun. So too is the concept of the creation of the souls from nothing to something. It's drawn through the union of Zan Nukva Belel Shabbos on the night of Shabbos Sha'az Uzman Zivugay Law, that's the time of supernal union. Like it's brought in the Zohar Lahamshich min bechinas pnimi satainog, to draw down from the inner concept of pleasure of Shabbos. V'yesh lomar, we can say shal yidei aliyah satainog mikol asher asa, that through the elevation of pleasure from the conclusion of all that you did during the week, this causes a revelation from the source of tainugim, and that's the concept of the inner pleasure. That is, that the pleasure comes from his essence, may be blessed, and not from just everything that he did and the conclusion of it and seeing the pleasure in it, but from even higher, from the source of the pleasure. And from this inner pleasure, that's where the neshamos are coming from. And this is this in Israel, Havaya Zar Elokeinu, Havaya Zachad. Niskar Beis Pamim Havaya, we mention Havaya twice in the pasuk. Because all creation happens through this concept of the name of Havaya, Yud Tzimtzum, Hey Spashtos Vav Huham Shacha El Hey Tata, that the Yud is a contraction, and the Hey corresponds with spreading out, and the Vav is drawing down to the lower Hey. Vini Havaya Elokeinu Hamshacha Hapnimis Lisavus Hanashamos. Now the first concept of Havaya in the pasuk Shema Yisrael is Havaya Elokeinu, that Havaya becomes Ar Elokeinu, and that's drawing down the inner concept to create the souls. Lisavus Hanashamos Yisrael Alu b'machshava, that Israel went up in divine thought. So they're from the pnimis, that they're from the inner concept. From the depth of how deep are your thoughts. From the inner courtyard that points towards the east, or points towards the kadim, the concept of the early primal concepts. Machshava hakduma. Upon kadim, the primal thought. The first thought, kedem hi l'mayla bebechinas reishis, because you have the concept of the beginning, which is reishis, but kedem is before that, from the beginning. Ki bereishis nami Mamer, because like we said, that Bereishis is also one of the 10 statements, and the external concept of all kadim, but the concept of before, kadmono shalolam, is the first and the prime concept of the world. Vigiloi zeba Shabbos, and the revelation of this is on Shabbos. V'tzarich lomar, we must say, dile inyan hazivug me'ir ha'ha'ara matzmius ha'tainog, that to the concept of this union shines the glimmer from the essence of the pleasure, bebechinas helem, in a hidden way, kiatipa nimsheches matzmius ha'chachma, because the drop comes down from the essence of wisdom, shalamayla meha saga, that's higher than what can be grasped. V'zeh shekaseh b'mizmor shir yom HaShabbos, but it's written in the Mizmor as a song for the day of Shabbos. Ki simachtani Hashem b'fa'olecha, because you have made me rejoice in your acts, in your things that you've made. Ki fa'olecha hu b'chinas gavoa harbe yoser mahamay moros d'maaseh bereishis, because the concept of the things that you've caused is a higher level than the statements of the acts of creation. Like it's brought in Yalkut, Shimoni and Beshalach Remez Reish Nun Gimel, Al Pasuk Mechon Shiftecha Balta Avaya, on the concept of a place for you to dwell, you have caused Havaya. So the Medrash itself makes a distinction between the word Maiseh and Poel. That Pe'ula is a higher level and is used in context of the Beis HaMikdash as being a dwelling place for Hashem. Havaya Echad. So that's Havaya Elokeinu, drawing down the Penimis from Kedem and the Pe'ula into creation. And then when we say Havaya Echad, Hadalid Rabasi Bechinas Dibur, so the big Dalid corresponds with supernal speech. And that's drawing down to create the 7 heavens and the earth and the 4 camps of the Shekhinah in the 4 directions. Hanimshach Yimal Yidei Hadibur Kanal, which are drawn through speech, like we said. So Havaya Elokeinu corresponds with Maiseh or Pe'ula, and Havaya Echad corresponds with Dibur. Lefisha b'Shabbos Gilui Machshava Ilah, and since on Shabbos you have a revelation of the supernal thought, Uba Gilui Tainug Elyon, and in it is the revelation of the supernal pleasure, Alkein Azdavka. Then specifically, then you have the drawing out of the souls, like we said. Not sure what that has to do, Davka, with Shema Yisrael. Because all creation happens through Shem Havaya. So you have 2 Shemos Havaya to draw down the 2 concepts within creation, Maiseh and Dibur. And with this you can understand the concept of the sin of Adam, the first man, with the tree of knowledge, Shemizvuar b'Sifrei HaKabbalah, Shezeu b'ma shehol idlekayin vehevel miad shenivra, that it's brought in the books of Kabbalah that this was that he gave birth to Cain and Hevel as soon as he was created. To Mamer, like the statement Shanaim Alu V'Dalad Yardu Chulu, that 2 went up to the bed and 4 came down. V'Lohimtinad Leil Shabbos, and he didn't wait until the night of Shabbos. Shabbos Tavka was Mani Yichud Holid Neshamos, because Shabbos specifically is the time of the union to give birth to the souls. V'Kain v'Hevel Shoshei Kol Neshamos Hayu, and Cain and Hevel were the source of all the rest of the Neshamos, so certainly they should have been formed on the night of Shabbos. And this is what it says by Cain, that I have acquired a man to Hashem. Kanisi Dafka Kiyadua, I have acquired specifically, as is known, in Baruch Osech, Baruch Yotzrech, Baruch Borech, Baruch Konech, with the concept of, from Kiddush Levana, blessed is your action, blessed is your forming, blessed is your creating, blessed is your acquirer. Shebechinas Kinyan Zeu Atzilus, that the concept of acquisition corresponds with the highest level of Atzilus. Look what's brought in the Mamer on Mishpatim about acquiring a Hebrew servant, Hebrew slave. So the concept of Cain then corresponds with the Shoresh and Neshamos, and that's why his name reflects the world of Atzilus, because he's the Shoresh. For the other Neshamos, Vayetzarech Adam Arishon lahamtin b'yichud zeh ad leil Shabbos, and Adam Arishon should have waited with this union until the night of Shabbos, ki bevav yemei hamaisa ein hazman lahamshich l'mayla mebichines pnimis, because during the 6 days of action, it's not the time to draw down from the inner concept, that is from this inner concept of the supernal pleasure. Like we said, because at that time, you're still involved in the speech and the action of creation, of the creative process. But specifically, when you complete all of the acts, and you cause a rest for the speech, like it says, and Elokim saw, and all his completed work in speech and so forth, as Huzman, then it's the time for the inner pleasure, the Toldos and Hashamos, to create the souls. And this is the source of this general concept of the statement by Rabbi Elazar Lefarsh bePerush Eleh Toldos Noach, that Rabbi Elazar prefaced in explaining the verse. These are the offspring of Noach, Eleh Pasol Sarishonim Kanal, that these nullified the first ones. So I guess the implication is that it nullified Cain and Hevel, who were created before Shabbos, but Noach is the concept of Shabbos and the creation of the Neshamos that are from the Pnimis and not from before the night of Shabbos. And that's Eleh Pasul Rishonim. Kitzer Eicha Chashinish Lamam Shachar Chitzonis B'Sheishis Yimei Abriya. So we talked about how after completing what we draw down in the external concept in the 6 days of creation, Azai Achar Kach B'Shabbos, then afterwards on Shabbos Gilui Tainug Elyon, you have the revelation of the supernal pleasure. V'Azai Dafka Huam Shachos V'Toldos and Hashamos, and then specifically you draw down and give birth to the soul Shem Bechinas Pnimis V'Atzmius Amochin Lamayla, that they're from the internal and the essential concept of the intellect above, from the glimmer of wisdom into speech. And that's the concept of in the pasuk Shema Yisrael, Havaya Ezar Elokeinu al b'machshava, Mashalamayla bechinas dibur, that which came up in thought, that's higher than speech. Zayin Rakim v'ha'aretz b'tevas Havaya Echad, and then the seven heavens and the earth in Havaya Echad. So you have the process of creation, the al b'machshava of Havaya Elokeinu, and the Zayin Rakim and Arts and Havaya Echad. And this is the concept of the sin of the tree of Adam, the first man. That is, that he didn't wait with the concept of the union. And that's the Eitz Hadas, is also the concept of the union of Adam and Chava. That Adam knew his wife, so the das was also the Eitz Hadas that he ate from, and he didn't wait till Shabbos to have the zivug and the yichud. Like the concept of Noach is ad zman hamiyud lezivug v'toldos haneshamos shu b'leil Shabbos, until the time that is set for the union and the creation of souls, which is on the night of Shabbos. Noach tikein zeh. And Noach fixed this concept, and that's why he's called the man of tzaddik, of Yesod, because he corresponds with the concept of the resting of Shabbos and the Yichud. And also because Noach is the concept of rest, which is Shabbos, like we said. Eleh Toldos Noach, and this is the concept of the offspring of Noach. The offspring of the Shabbos, of the two levels of Shabbos, Hainu Toldos, and Neshamos should be Yichud the Shabbos, that is to say, the offspring, the creation of the souls that are in the union of Shabbos, Alkein, Eleh Pasuk Sarishonim, and that's why Noach's offspring nullified the first ones, Shinim Shchum Yitzadas Chulu, because Cain and Hevel and so forth, and from Adam Arishon, the Yichud there was from Yitzadas before the Yichud Panimi was supposed to happen.